Mounce, BBG, chapter 17, verse or sentence 1. Back at it, you got a post positive. That's the first thing. If you pick up a gar a day, you know you want to move that out to the front. You also have a T. You're going to notice that accent right there. That accent should tell you you're probably looking at an interrogative. And the way to confirm that, of course, is to look down to the end of the sentence. And as soon as you see that question mark there, you know that you're definitely dealing with an interrogative. So here you're, who, what, or why, but me is going to be your direct object. So because it's in the accusative, more than likely. So why something me, what something me, who something me, that kind of thing. And you can run through all those. I mean, I'll give it to you on this one. It's why, but you can run all through all those and until it makes sense. Worst case scenario. Thing to notice here with the verb is that the main thing, hopefully kaleo is I call, but here you've got the tau epsilon. This is where it becomes more and more obvious that you really ought to learn the inflections of the verbs without the connecting vowel. I mean, like I said, for present active indicative, I always, since I learned it as oase amineti usi, which includes the connecting vowel, that's just the way my mind hung on to it and continues to hang on to it. But apart from that, I would highly recommend, like Mounce suggests, that you learn it without the connecting vowel. Here's a case in point. If you learned it with the connecting vowel, you'd be expecting an epsilon here, and you don't. You have this kind of, diphthong going on, and then a tau epsilon. What you should know, though, is that anytime you see a tau epsilon or a theta epsilon, remember those two, tau epsilon or theta epsilon, either one of those, you're looking at second person plural automatically. Whatever else is true, tau epsilon, theta epsilon, second person plural. So in this case, you've got a second person plural. It's y'all or you all from kaleo. So it's, and again, I'm giving you the T. Why and why do y'all call me? And then his quotation, Kyrie, Kyrie, which is Lord, Lord, from Kyrios. And this is a vocative, which you really haven't had yet, but at least I don't think you've encountered vocatives. But not a big deal, because I'm sure you could figure it out based on the context. Why do y'all call me Lord, Lord, and not... And then you've got the same kind of ending, and we'll come back and talk about the verbs in a second, but you got the same second plural ending with the tau epsilon. This case from poieo, which is I do or I make. So, and y'all don't do, because here's your not. So, and y'all don't do, here's your relative pronoun, what I say. So before we go back and look at the verbs and the relative pronoun, let's just go ahead and take it all at once. And why do y'all call me Lord, Lord, and y'all don't do what I say? Question mark. Now, jumping back for a second, it's from kaleo. You would be expecting, in a normal verb, present active indicative, you'd be expecting simply epsilon, tau, epsilon. But the way you're going to know a lot of times is if you have a present stem, if you've got a typical, I'm looking for kaleo, I'm looking for poieo, those kinds of things. But you see that circumflex there? That circumflex is going to tell you that it's probably a contract verb. And as soon as you know it's a contract verb, and you know that, if you know the vocabulary word, it is, because you know kaleo and you know poieo. And as soon as you say those kinds of things, it's a contract verb. So as soon as you know that it's a contract verb, you know that it's got the circumflex, it's just present active indicative. In this case, second person plural from kaleo. All right, and same thing with this. Poieo, you see the circumflex. You see that it's a standard stem like you learned it. You know that it's a contract verb. As soon as you see all that, present active indicative, second person plural, easy enough from Poieo. Now, the trick on this one, which Mounce really isn't focusing on because he wants you to focus on these contract verbs, but I would ask you to take a look at that relative pronoun because it's an interesting one. This is a case where it not only has no antecedent, it doesn't look forward to something that's obvious. So, in terms of case number gender, you can take a stab at it, but you got to say, well, what's it pointing back at in terms of an antecedent? There is none. But what you need to know is that because it's a neuter, it can refer back to just something as a general, something or some things that are just, like I said, general. And he starts, what the antecedent would be a part of is right here, and it's y'all don't do. Well, y'all don't do what? Y'all don't do things. What things? The things that I say, things. So I would say things, and y'all are supposed to do things, but y'all don't do things. And again, while this doesn't have an antecedent, you see it's a ha, so you hopefully figure, well, that's probably a neuter plural. And as soon as you say neuter plural, then you'd be looking back and you'd be going, there's no antecedent. Well, again, it's talking about what they don't do. And again, when it's referring back to a neuter concept, a lot of times it's not spelled out. So just like saying in English, things. Y'all don't do things. And in this case, that would line up with it being a neuter plural, the fact that they don't do things. And then it would also line up in terms of case if we have, can't be a nominative because it can't be the subject of Lego, but it can be an accusative because it can be the object of Lego if it's replacing the things that are the antecedent, the non-existent antecedent. If it's replacing that within the relative clause, and this is your relative clause, what I say, take out the relative pronoun and say, well, I say things. Makes perfect sense on its own. So that would tell you that this has to be accusative, and it makes perfect sense for this to be accusative as we look forward to what role it plays within the relative clause. Hopefully that helps.